The stars were silent. On the bridge of the UES horizon, Captain Jake Morrison stood still, staring at the dead planet below. The world was called New Terra, once green fields, farms, and laughter of children. Now it was black and gray, covered. "In smoke, sir," said Lieutenant Commander Lisa Harper. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed fear. "No signals. All channels are silent." Major Richard Stone, the ship's science officer, looked pale. His scanner screen blinked with "Strange data, Captain. These readings don't make sense. The entire surface shows signs of burning. Not natural. It's deliberate. Something powerful. Something not human." Amy Rodriguez, the young communications officer, turned from her station. "I have a weak distress beacon, automated. Coming." From the main settlement, Jake's stomach tightened. He had visited New Terra 3 times before. He remembered fresh bread baking in village streets, children running with wooden toys, families planting crops with laughter. All that. Was Ash? "Take us down," Jake ordered. His voice was cold. Shields up. Weapons armed. The horizon descended through heavy black clouds. Lightning crackled inside the smoke. As the ship broke through, the crew gasped. The main city gone. In its place stood only ruins, twisted metal, and endless fire. Lisa Harper clutched her chair. Her sister Kate had lived here for years with her husband and children. She was supposed to visit next month. Her knuckles turned white on the console. "Landing party," Jake said. "Full protective gear. Stone, bring your scanners." "Harper, you're with me." "Rodriguez, hold the ship and monitor all channels." Minutes later, they stepped out onto the surface. Ash fell like snow. The smell of death filled the air, even through their helmets. Silence was crushing. Jake had seen war before. This was different. This was not battle. This was slaughter. The crew walked the remains of the main street. Houses were burned down to their foundations. Cars were nothing but melted lumps. The ground crunched under their boots. In the town square, they found them. Hundreds of bodies. Men, women, children, even infants. All arranged in neat rows. Dr. Stone dropped to one knee, scanning quickly. His voice broke. "God help us. They were executed. Shot, then burned. Some of them were alive when the fire started." Lisa gasped and stumbled forward. She ran toward the school. "Kate!" she cried. "Kate, are you here, please?" Jake followed her inside.
Ow.
The school's walls still stood, but the windows were shattered, and the roof sagged with fire damage. The gymnasium was sealed shut. From the outside, with shaking hands, Lisa pried the welded doors open. Inside were dozens of bodies, teachers and children, trapped, burned alive. Lisa fell to her knees beside one body, clutching the charred hand. Even burned, Jake could see the resemblance. Harper whispered, "That's her. That's my sister." The silence broke only with Stone's scanner beeping. Captain confirmed. Alien energy weapons. Very strong, not human. For 6 hours, they searched. Every building destroyed, every family dead, no survivors. At last, under the rubble of the colony's data center, Stone found something, a blackened console still intact. He pulled the files. Captain Stone said, voice shaking, "You need to see this." The portable screen flickered. Security footage appeared. Tall, gray-skinned aliens with 4 arms, black armor, weapons glowing with blue light. They moved. Like trained soldiers, they herded humans into groups. They separated children from parents. Then one by one, executed both. Lisa covered her mouth. Her body trembled. They enjoyed this. Another file loaded. The alien commander, taller golden markings on his armor, looked into the camera. His lips curved into a cruel smile. His soldiers laughed behind him as flames consumed homes. Jake's fists clenched. He had studied alien archives. He recognized them. "Zehrin," he said, voice cold. "Outer Rim Empire, known for conquest. Stones." Hands shook as he played the final transmission. The image of a human man filled the screen. His face was bloodied, his voice weak. "My name, Ben Carter," he whispered. Explosions roared in the background. They came without warning, no demands, no negotiations. They just started killing, burning children alive. Tell Earth. Tell them this isn't war. This is genocide. They do this because we are human. The transmission cut with screams and weapons fire. Static swallowed the screen. For a moment, no one spoke. The ash fell heavier. "Back to the ship," Jake said at last. His voice carried steel. "Now." As the horizon rose from the dead colony, Jake stood at the window. Below him, New Terra burned, silent as a tomb. 50,000 voices cried out in his mind. Amy turned from her console. "Captain, should I send a message ahead?" Jake closed his eyes. He saw Ben Carter's last. Look. He saw Lisa Harper kneeling over her sister's body. He saw the alien commander smiling as children screamed. "Yes," he said finally. "Send it to Earth Command." "Priority 1, Amy waited. "What should I add, sir?" Jake looked out at the burning world one last time. His jaw set. "Tell them the Zehrin showed us monsters," he said. His eyes burned cold blue in the reflection. "Tell them they're about to learn what real monsters look like when someone kills our children." Lisa stood beside him. Face streaked with tears, she whispered, "When we strike back, I want to be there. I want them to pay." Jake turned to his crew. These were explorers once, scientists, dreamers, gentle souls. But that ended today. He nodded slowly. "We all will be there, every one of us, when Earth answers." The UES horizon jumped to faster than light. Behind them, New Terra smoldered in silence. 50,000 souls waited for justice. The situation. Room deep under the White House was silent. Screens along the walls flickered with star maps, troop deployments, and the raw footage from New Terra. President Helen Carter stood at the head of the table. Her face was pale, her jaw set like stone. Around her sat the most powerful people on Earth. General Paul Harrison of the Ground Forces, Admiral Susan Blake of the Space Fleet, and Dr. Elena Martinez, humanity's leading xenobiologist. On the largest screen, the image froze, the Zehrin commander smiling as fire consumed the colony. His soldiers laughed behind him. The screams of children echoed faintly from the speakers. For a long moment, no one spoke. The room was heavy with grief and fury. Admiral Blake's hands slammed the table. 50,000 dead. Families burned alive, and they dared to record it. If we don't respond with fire, they will hit us again. Tomorrow, it could be Earth. General Harrison's voice was calm but hard. "Admiral, I want justice as much as you. But a direct war against the Zehrin is suicide. Their empire spans 17 systems. Their fleet is larger than ours. We rush, we may lose everything." "Lose everything?" Blake's voice rose. "We already did. New Terra is ash. How many more colonies do you want burned before you call it war?" The tension cracked like thunder. Both commanders stared at each other, fire in their eyes. President Carter raised her hand. The room fell quiet. "Dr. Martinez," she said softly, "what do we know about them? I want facts." Martinez tapped her console. The screen shifted. To alien physiology, Zehrin are tall, four-armed, strong. But they are not invincible. Their biology is fragile in ways we can exploit. Their inner ears are extremely sensitive to high-frequency sound. Their nervous systems fail under certain electromagnetic pulses. And their bodies cannot handle rapid shifts in gravity. Admiral Blake leaned forward. Then we build weapons that break them. Every weakness becomes a tool. Harrison frowned. "Even if we create those weapons, our fleets are not ready. We need 6 months to mobilize fully." 6 months? Carter's voice cut sharp. "They just promised Earth would burn. We don't have 6 months. How soon can we strike?" 8 weeks for a significant force, Harrison admitted. Carter's eyes narrowed. "Too long. If they launch before then, we lose another colony. Maybe Mars. Maybe Earth." The room went darker as Amy Rodriguez's voice came through the comms. She was still aboard the Horizon, now in Earth orbit. Madame President, we've decoded an additional Zehrin transmission. It appears they left it on purpose. Put it through, Carter ordered. The screen shifted.
Oh.
The Zehrin commander, golden armor gleaming, sneered into the camera. His voice was translated by Earth's AI system. I am Commander. It's Vexel of the Purification Fleet. We have cleansed this human world. The screams of their children brought joy to our soldiers. We leave this message for the next planet. We know where your homeworld is. Soon Earth itself will burn. The recording ended with cruel, echoing laughter. The silence in the room was colder than space itself. Admiral Blake's voice broke it. There, you heard him. They want genocide. If we wait, they will come for our families. We need to strike now. General Harrison clenched his fists. If we strike recklessly, we invite disaster. They could crush us. They already crushed us, Blake snapped. 50,000 civilians, General. They burned children alive. President Carter walked slowly to the window. Outside, Washington glowed with the lights of 12 billion lives. Families, children, people who trusted her to keep them safe. She turned back. Her voice was quiet but sharp as steel. What about the Galactic Council? Dr. Martinez cleared her throat uneasily. The Council condemns the attack. They are discussing sanctions on the Zehrin Empire. Trade restrictions, freezing assets, sanctions. Blake spat the word. 50,000 murdered, and their answer is bank accounts? Do they think the Zehrin care about trade deals? Carter stared at Martinez. Would the Council authorize military action? Martinez shook her head. Only if every member agrees, and only if multiple species face an imminent threat. That process would take months, maybe longer. Months, Carter whispered. Her hand tightened on the back of her chair. By then, how many more children will burn? The president stood tall, her shadow stretching across the room. Ambassador, CRE has 72 hours to deliver the Zehrin commanders responsible for trial on Earth. If he fails, Earth will withdraw from all treaties. We will act alone, Madame President, Martinez said carefully. That could destabilize the entire galaxy. Carter's eyes burned. The galaxy is already destabilized. They just don't feel it yet, because it's not their children. Screaming in the fire. Admiral Blake nodded fiercely. If we cross this line, there's no turning back. We will become something the galaxy has never seen before. General Harrison's voice was low. Yes, monsters. Carter's gaze hardened. No, we are not becoming monsters. We are becoming what monsters fear in their nightmares. The room was silent again, but this time, it was not grief. It was resolve. Carter looked to her commanders. General Harrison, begin mobilization of ground forces immediately. Admiral Blake, every ship must be ready within 6 weeks. Dr. Martinez, design weapons that exploit their biology. I don't care what rules we have to break. Martinez hesitated. Are you authorizing? Biological weapons? The president turned back to the screen, where Commander Vexel's smile froze in cruel satisfaction. She thought of Ben Carter's last message. She thought of Lisa Harper kneeling beside her sister's corpse. Her answer was a whisper that shook the room. I am authorizing whatever it takes to make sure this never happens again. Admiral Blake's lips curved into a grim smile. Then it begins. President Carter nodded once. Call it Operation Reckoning, because that is what it will be. The orbital shipyards above Earth had never looked like this before. For 2 centuries, they had built explorers, freighters, peaceful craft that carried scientists and farmers. To the stars? Now under cold floodlights, they forged something different. The first frames of the video showed sparks raining down like falling stars. Robotic arms welded black holes together, each stroke echoing like thunder across the vacuum. Giant banners along the yards read a single word in red. Reckoning. A single nameplate slid into place, letters glowing as if alive. UES Vengeance. The camera panned to another ship. Children's Justice. Then another. New Terra's Wrath. The names were not chosen for pride. They were chosen for memory. Every worker whispered them like prayers. Admiral Susan Blake stood on the observation deck of Space Station Alpha, her hands behind her back. The cold steel of the glass railing pressed against her palms. Below her stretched a site so massive it looked impossible, kilometers of scaffolding. Thousands of workers, sparks lighting the void like fireflies. "How many ships?" she asked. Captain Randy Foster, her fleet coordinator, checked his. "Datapad, 47, Admiral, all war ready. New weapons installed. Support craft and transports still in progress." Blake's lips tightened. It's not enough, but it will have to be. Behind her, Dr. Elena Martinez walked forward, dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept in days. She carried a tablet filled with blueprints and formulas that looked more like nightmares than science. Admiral Martinez said softly, "We need to talk." Blake turned. "Show me." The three of them took a shuttle across the docking arms, weaving between unfinished hulls. Workers stopped welding to salute as they passed. No one smiled. No one joked. They worked as if every spark was a funeral candle. Inside Research Station Beta, Martinez led them into a chamber. A holographic figure of a Zehrin soldier floated. In the air, forearms outstretched, black armor gleaming. "First," Martinez said, "the sonic weapon." She activated a device. No sound filled the human ear, but the hologram convulsed violently, its insides writhing. Zehrin ears are hypersensitive. This frequency liquefies organs in less than 30 seconds. They will die screaming, but silent to us. Foster flinched. "Doctor, that's torture." Martinez's eyes turned hard. "Did you watch the new Terra recordings, Captain? Did you hear the children? This is not torture. This is balance." Blake's gaze never wavered. "Continue." The hologram reset. This time, invisible pressure crushed it slowly, bones snapping one by one. "Localized gravity fields," Martinez explained. "We can adjust them to increase pressure gradually. A soldier will feel his body break apart while staying conscious. It takes minutes, not seconds." Blake's face remained stone. Good Foster looked sick. "Admiral, is this who we are now?" Blake's voice was cold as iron. "This is who we have to be." Martinez moved to the next display. A Zehrin ship flickered into view. "We developed viral codes that infect their systems. Once inside, the virus shuts down life support section by section. Their crews will suffocate, watching each other die first." "And the masterpiece?" Blake asked. Martinez opened a sealed case. Inside was a small vial filled with a glowing liquid. "A bioweapon," she whispered. "Proved from the one they used against other species. It does not kill in days. It kills in weeks. The victim remains alive, every nerve awake, as their body collapses piece by piece. Organ failure, madness, and no relief until the end." Captain Foster's face turned pale. "This is beyond war. This is cruelty." Martinez looked straight at him. "They burned our children alive. Would you rather give them mercy?" Blake stepped closer to the vial. The glow reflected in her eyes like fire. "We will give them what they gave us, and more. Every alien will learn what it means to kill humans." From the far side of the lab, Dr. Kevin Walsh appeared, his uniform smudged with grease. "Admiral, the ships themselves, they've been redesigned." He activated another hologram. A dreadnought appeared, its hull black as midnight, edged in glowing red veins. Its lines were sharp, predatory, almost alive. "The design is psychological," Walsh explained. "When they see these ships, they will not see explorers. They will see nightmares." The hologram zoomed in. Beacers along the hull were marked. In red, each ship broadcasts fear frequencies into space. They also carry external projectors. "When we attack, the enemy will hear the screams of New Terra's children." Admiral Blake smiled for the first time in weeks. Perfect. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, General Harrison oversaw the ground forces. Thousands of volunteers filled the training camps. Most had lost someone on New Terra, fathers who buried their sons, sisters who lost sisters, children who had seen their parents die on other colony raids. Colonel Beth Murphy addressed them in the main hangar. Her voice thundered like steel against steel. "You all know why you are here," she said. The Zehrin think we are weak. They think we are prey. They think they can murder our families and walk away. They are wrong. We will show them what happens when you kill humans." Her soldiers cheered. But it was not joy. It was fury, sharp and heavy. They practiced with new weapons, rifles that fired sonic bursts, grenades that crushed targets with gravity fields, blades charged with electromagnetic pulses. "Remember this?" Murphy told them, her eyes blazing. "We are not fighting only for revenge. We are fighting to make sure no human child ever screams again in the dark." Across the ocean, President Helen Carter walked into the command center, looking at the fleet status reports. One by one, she saw the names of the ships. Revenge, Judgment, Reckoning. She touched the glass. Her reflection stared back at her, tired but burning. "They wanted monsters," she whispered. "We'll show them monsters." Above her, the first completed dreadnought powered up. Its engines flared blue, shaking the shipyard itself. U.S. Reckoning rose from its cradle like a beast awakened. On the bridge, Admiral Jake Morrison, newly promoted, wearing the scars of New Terra, stood with Lisa Harper at his side. He looked out across the black hull, across the fleet rising from silence. "Admiral," Lisa said softly, "are we ready?" Morrison's eyes narrowed. He remembered her kneeling by her sister's body. He remembered Ben Carter's final message. He remembered Commander Vexel's smile. His answer was quiet, cold, and final. "No, but they are not ready for us either." The fleet's engines lit the sky above Earth. 1,000 sparks of vengeance, waiting for war. The stars over Caithmore burned bright, unaware of the storm that was about to arrive. KTH Moore was no ordinary planet. It was the Zehrin Empire's pride, their main military academy, where future soldiers trained. Billions of credits had been spent. On its defense, orbital stations circled like steel crowns, and planetary shields glowed faintly around the world. The Zehrin believed it was untouchable. They were wrong. The darkness of space tore open. 47 Terran warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Black holes glowed with red veins, their predatory shapes spreading across the stars like shadows of nightmares. For the first time, the galaxy saw the monster fleet. On the bridge of the U.S. Reckoning, Admiral Jake Morrison stood tall. His face was calm, but his eyes were ice. Lisa Harper stood at his side, her jaw set, her grief now sharpened into a blade. "Sir," said Tactical Officer Tony Garcia, "we're being hailed by the Zehrin Defense Command." "Put them through," Morrison said. The main screen flickered, revealing a Zehrin officer in gleaming silver armor. His forearms crossed arrogantly over his chest. "Human vessels," he growled. "You are trespassing in Zehrin space. Withdraw immediately, or face destruction." Morrison leaned forward, his voice steady. "I am Admiral Jake Morrison of Earth. I bring a message from New Terra." The Zehrin sneered. "New Terra? That colony of yours we cleansed? What of it?" Morrison's reply was cold as a blade. "Everything." The connection cut. He turned to Garcia. "Begin the demonstration." The first target was the Orbital Academy Station, where thousands of young Zehrin cadets were training. The station gleamed silver, full of future killers. Morrison's gaze hardened. "Fire gravity torpedoes," he ordered. The weapons struck silently. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the station began to twist. Metal groaned as invisible force increased slowly, crushing the structure centimeter by centimeter. The screams of young cadets filled every channel. "Open the comms," Morrison said. "All frequencies." Across the system, every Zehrin, soldiers, civilians, commanders heard the cries of their own children as the academy collapsed. Lisa Harper's face was pale, but she didn't look away. She remembered the gymnasium on New Terra, full of burned bodies. "Now they know," she whispered. "Second targets," Morrison ordered. Human ships spread out, their weapons glowing. They did not fire quick, clean shots. Every platform, every station, was struck with slow weapons. Sonic blasts that liquefied organs in 30 seconds. Viruses that killed crews one deck at a time. Gravity fields that crushed defenses like paper. The Zehrin system panicked. For the first time in centuries, their warriors screamed. 3 hours later, the Zehrin defense fleet arrived, 15 heavy cruisers and 30 escorts. They charged in formation, their commanders confident in their numbers. Enemy fleet incoming, Garcia reported. They want a battle. Let them have one, Morrison said. The enemy commander, Admiral Zethar, appeared on screen. His eyes burned with fury. Human, your actions are war crimes. You're violating every galactic convention. Morrison laughed darkly. And you violated the only rule that matters. You don't kill our children. We're here to remind you. Zethar bared his fangs. Cease this madness, or your species will face extinction. I have something of yours, Morrison said. He gestured to the side. The screen shifted to show Commander Vexel, the butcher of New Terra, strapped to a steel table aboard the Reckoning. His one-sprout armor was broken. His forearms were shackled. His skin twitched as a needle pumped. Glowing liquid into his veins, Zethar's face froze. If you harm him, he's already harmed, Morrison interrupted. That's the same bioweapon he used on our colonists. We improved it. Instead of killing in days, it takes weeks. He'll stay awake for all of it. On-screen Vexel screamed. His body convulsed. His eyes rolled in agony. His voice broke into howls that echoed across the system. You monster, Zethar whispered. No, Morrison said, his voice ice. I'm only a student. Your commander taught me how to be a monster. The transmission ended. Now, Morrison said quietly, Gage. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human ships did not simply destroy Zehrin cruisers. They disabled them first, hacking their systems with viral codes. Then they unleashed horrors. Crews suffocated slowly. Sonic blasts turned screams into silence. Gravity torpedoes crushed ships into twisted coffins, and Morrison made sure every frequency carried the sounds of Zehrin death. On the ground, Colonel Beth Murphy led the first Terran Marines into battle. Their drop pods streaked through the sky like black meteors. They hit Caithmore's surface with earth-shaking force. Murphy's soldiers carried sonic rifles and gravity grenades. They moved through bases with precision, firing into barracks, collapsing walls onto screaming Zehrin warriors. No mercy. No survivors at the Capitol training complex. Murphy stood before a camera with a row of captured Zehrin generals behind her, bound and beaten. Her voice was calm, almost cold. My name is Colonel Beth Murphy of the Earth Defense Forces. These are your leaders, the ones who ordered genocide? The ones who cheered when children burned? She nodded to her soldiers. Each general was injected with the slow bioweapon. They writhed and screamed behind her as the camera broadcast across the Empire. This is what happens when you kill human families, Murphy said evenly. This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. The transmission did not end for days. Every Zehrin world, every council member, every listening species saw what humanity had become. Back aboard the Reckoning, Lisa Harper turned to Morrison. Sir, the Zehrin will never forgive this. Morrison's expression did not change. Good, I don't want forgiveness. I want fear. The Terran fleet formed up. Behind them, Caithmore burned, stations crushed, fleets suffocated, generals screaming on every channel. Morrison gave the order. Signal Earth. The first strike is complete. The black ships turned, engines glowing like fire in the void. For the first time, the galaxy trembled. The galaxy watched in silence. Every comm channel, every relay, every news feed lit up with the same image. Commander Vexel of the Zehrin Empire, strapped to a steel table aboard the UES Reckoning. His one-sprout golden armor was shattered, his forearms bound by chains that glowed red with energy locks. His face twisted with pain as his body sat. Admiral Jake Morrison stood over him, calm and cold. The broadcast carried his voice. 2 billions. This is Commander Vexel, Morrison said. He is the butcher of New Terra. He ordered 50,000 innocents burned alive. He promised Earth would burn next. Vexel's screams filled the feed as the slow bioweapon worked through his body. His veins glowed faintly, his flesh twitching as if something crawled beneath it. Morrison looked straight into the camera. His eyes were ice. "He taught us what monsters look like," he said. "We listened. We learned. Now it's his turn to be the lesson." The galaxy had seen death before. It had seen war, battles, and executions. But this was different. This was deliberate, slow. Vexel's agony stretched minute after minute, his howls echoing across the stars. On alien worlds, civilians turned away in horror. Our leaders stared at their screens shaken. Even warriors who once admired the Zehrin felt their stomachs twist. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. Humanity was showing them something new. What happens when humans stop holding back? Lisa Harper stood at Morrison's side, her jaw clenched. She remembered her sister's body in the burned school. She remembered the silence of New Terra. Every second of Vexel's screams felt like justice. "Broadcast is stable," Tony Garcia reported. "Every Zehrin system is receiving. So are the Council worlds," Morrison said. "Let them see." For hours, the galaxy watched Vexel's slow death. The bioweapon tore at his body, but never fast enough to end him. His voice broke into guttural cries, then rose again into shrieks. He begged in his language, but no one listened. Morrison made sure the translation feed was off. The galaxy heard only screams. Finally, after an eternity of torment, Vexel's body gave one last violent spasm. His chest collapsed. His eyes rolled white. His voice faded into silence. The commander of the Purification Fleet was dead. Morrison turned back to the camera. His voice was steady. "This is what happens when you murder human children. This is what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. Remember his screams? Because they are the future sound of anyone who dares follow him." The broadcast ended, but the message did not. Across the galaxy, silence lingered like a shadow. Zehrin, for the first time, felt fear. While the galaxy trembled, the Galactic Council gathered in emergency session. Their amphitheater, once a place of calm debate, now felt like a cage of panic. Ambassadors shouted over one another, their voices echoing. Ambassador Sir of the Altarians stood at the center, his 6 limbs raised for order. His blue skin was pale with worry. "We must condemn this," he cried. "Humanity has abandoned every law, every treaty. They are becoming a threat to all." But other voices rose. "And where were the Council's laws when the Zehrin butchered 50,000? Shouted a reptilian envoy. "Where was justice when entire species were wiped out while you debated trade routes?" The chamber split. Some demanded action against Earth. Others begged for human protection. The Council, once united, was fracturing before the eyes of the galaxy back on Earth. President Helen Carter stood before her war council. The room was dim, the air tense. The screen still glowed faintly with Vexel's death. "Reactions?" she asked. Admiral Susan Blake allowed herself a grim smile. "The Zehrin are panicking. Their fleets are retreating to core worlds. Their people are rioting. The fear is spreading faster than our ships." General Harrison's tone was darker. "Madame President, the Council has declared our methods atrocities. They may send a peacekeeping fleet." Carter's gaze hardened. "Let them come. They stood aside when our children burned. Now they want to lecture us on war?" Dr. Martinez spoke quietly. "Madame President, the line between justice and cruelty, it is gone. We are not just fighting them. We're teaching the entire galaxy to fear us." Carter turned to her. "Good. Fear is stronger than law. The Council had their chance. They chose diplomacy. We chose survival." She walked to the screen where Vexel's last image was frozen, mouth open in an endless scream. "They wanted monsters," she whispered. "Now they have them." Meanwhile, Admiral Blake commanded the Second Fleet near the altar system. Her ships detected incoming vessels. Not Zehrin, but a joint peace fleet assembled by the Council. 12 species had contributed ships. They came armed, prepared to force Earth to stop. Blake opened a channel. "This is Admiral Susan Blake of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are trespassing in a war zone. Withdraw immediately." Ambassador CRE's voice came through, urgent pleading. Admiral, the Council demands you cease these atrocities. Humanity is breaking every convention? Blake's laugh was cold. Atrocities. Where was your council when New Terra burned? When children screamed, you did nothing. We don't answer to you anymore. CR's voice trembled. Admiral, if you fire, you will make enemies of every species in the council. Blake's eyes glowed with steel. Then let them come. We are ready. Without another word, the Black Terran fleet opened fire. The council ships expected warning shots, negotiations, mercy. They received none. The battle was swift, brutal, merciless. Human ships tore through them with sonic blasts and viral codes. Entire crews suffocated while their ships drifted dead in space. Within an hour, the council fleet was gone. No survivors. No prisoners. Blake broadcast one message to every council world. You wanted to see what happens when humans are pushed too far. Congratulations, you're looking at it. Back aboard the Reckoning, Lisa Harper stood at the viewport watching the stars. Her voice was low. Sir, have we become the monsters? Morrison stood beside her, his reflection dark in the glass. No, we became the answer to monsters, and the galaxy will never forget. Behind them, the fleet prepared for its next jump. Ahead lay the Zehrin homeworld, the heart of the Empire. The monsters were coming. This time they wore human faces. Zehrin Prime was a jewel in the darkness. Their proud capital, their strongest fortress, their beating heart. Towers of silver stretched into the skies. Fleets orbited in tight formations. Billions lived under the protection of an empire. That had lasted centuries. The Zehrin believed their homeworld was untouchable. That belief was about to die. The void shivered. 47 Terran warships dropped from faster-than-light travel. Their black holes glowed with red veins, their sharp edges cutting across the stars. To the Zehrin below, they looked like demons, carved from nightmares. On the bridge of the UES Reckoning, Admiral Jake Morrison stood tall, his reflection cold in the glass. Lisa Harper stood at his side, fists clenched. The fleet stretched around them in perfect formation, engines burning. Blue like the eyes of predators, sir, Tony Garcia reported. Planetary Defense Fleet, 112 ships. It's all mobilizing. Orbital platforms charging weapons. Lisa looked at Morrison. That's more ships than we've ever faced. What? Morrison's jaw tightened. Good. Let them all be here. To witness, he opened the comms, broadcasting to every Zehrin frequency. His voice carried across the homeworld. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of Earth. 3 months ago, you burned New Terra. You murdered 50,000. You promised Earth would burn next. Today your empire dies instead. Silence followed. Then the Zehrin responded with fury. Their fleet moved like a swarm, surging forward, weapons blazing. Morrison's voice was calm. Engage. The first exchange lit the void with fire. Zehrin cruisers poured energy beams into human shields, but the Terran fleet fought with something new. Viral codes slipped into Zehrin systems, shutting down life support. Sonic blasts tore through crews, liquefying them in their own armor. Gravity torpedoes twisted entire ships into screaming coffins. One by one, Zehrin vessels fell silent, drifting into the darkness. But this time, Morrison didn't order destruction. He ordered broadcasts. Every ship captured, every crew suffocated. Every scream was transmitted to the homeworld below. On the surface of Zehrin Prime, civilians looked up at their skies. They saw their proud navy breaking apart, heard their warriors dying in agony, and realized the monsters were here. On the ground, Colonel Beth Murphy led the Terran Marines. Their drop pods rained like meteors, black and burning, slamming into Zehrin military bases. Doors blasted open and soldiers stormed. Through with sonic rifles and gravity grenades, Murphy's voice carried over every channel. Remember New Terra? The fighting was brutal. Face to face, Marines advanced with cold precision, firing into squads of Zehrin soldiers, watching them crumple under invisible forces. Barracks collapsed, fortresses fell, civilians screamed and ran, But the Marines kept moving. This was not conquest. This was annihilation. At the Capitol complex, Murphy stood among her soldiers as explosions shook the ground. The Zehrin leaders had been captured, their ornate robes torn, their crowns shattered. They knelt in chains before her, trembling. She opened a live broadcast. "My name is Colonel Beth Murphy of the Earth Defense Forces. These are your rulers, the ones who ordered genocide, the ones who laughed while children burned." Soldiers dragged the leaders into view. One by one, they were injected with the slow bioweapon. Their screams filled the feed, echoing across every Zehrin world. Murphy's voice was steady. "This is what happens when you kill human families. This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. Your empire ends here, today." Back aboard the Reckoning, Lisa Harper's voice trembled. "Sir, there are billions of civilians. Down there." Morrison's eyes stayed fixed on the burning planet. Billions who cheered when New Terra died. They forfeited the name civilians the moment they celebrated genocide. Lisa's hands shook. "So we destroy them all?" Morrison finally turned to her. His voice was sharp as steel. "We do what they did to us. And worse. Because the galaxy must never forget." Tony Garcia interrupted. "Sir, enemy fleet is breaking. Most ships are surrendering." Morrison's answer was immediate. "No surrenders. Every ship is a warning. Every wreck a message." The Terran fleet continued its merciless work. 112 Zehrin warships gone, orbital platforms gone, defenses crushed, the skies of Zehrin Prime turned red with fire at Earth Command. President Helen Carter watched the feeds. Her council stood behind her, silent. The galaxy's most powerful empire was collapsing in weeks, torn apart by human fury. Dr. Martinez whispered, almost to herself, "We've done it. We've erased them." General Harrison's face was grim. "Madame President, there will be no going back. The galaxy will call us monsters." Carter's eyes stayed locked on the burning cities of Zehrin Prime. Let them better monsters than victims. Hours later, the capital complex of the Zehrin Empire fell. Human Marines stormed the council chamber, tearing down banners, toppling statues, dragging rulers out into the ash. Colonel Murphy stood where the Emperor himself had once ruled. Around her, flames rose. She raised her rifle and spoke into the live broadcast. 3 months ago, you murdered 50,000 humans. Today, we return the favor. The Zehrin Empire is no more. Behind her, chained rulers screamed as the bioweapon consumed them. The camera caught every second. Every alien species across the galaxy watched as the mighty Zehrin were reduced to writhing wrecks. Back in orbit, Morrison stood on the Reckoning's bridge. The planet below was burning, its cities collapsing into ruin. Reports came in from across the Empire, colonies surrendering, fleets fleeing, leaders begging for mercy. Garcia turned. "Sir, it's over. The Zehrin are finished." Morrison's gaze never left the fire below. "No, this is just the beginning. The galaxy must understand. Genocide has consequences." Lisa Harper whispered, almost afraid of his answer. "Sir, what are we now?" Morrison's reply was cold, final. "We're the monsters they wanted us to be." The fleet's engines lit again. The black ships rose higher, casting their shadows across the burning capital. The Zehrin Empire had stood for centuries. It had fallen in 3 months, and the galaxy knew the age of humanity had begun. The galaxy did not sleep. For weeks, every channel had carried the same images, the fall of the Zehrin homeworld. Their rulers screaming as the bioweapon consumed them, their fleets twisted and broken in orbit. An empire that had lasted centuries had been wiped out in 3 months. But what shook the galaxy most was not the Zehrin's fall. It was the rise of something new. Humanity, in the ruins of the Zehrin capital, giant screens still flickered with the final broadcast. Colonel Beth Murphy's face stared into every home, every outpost, every ship. Behind her, the Zehrin rulers writhed in chains. "This is what happens when you kill human children," Murphy's voice echoed. This is what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. Your empire dies with you. Billions across the stars watched. Oh, some trembled, some cheered. All understood. The rules had changed. On Earth, President Helen Carter stood before the United Nations General Assembly. The hall was filled with delegates from every nation, their faces pale with awe and fear. For 2 centuries, Carter began, her voice steady, we tried to be the galaxy's peaceful explorers. We respected their laws. We trusted their justice. She paused, letting silence stretch. And what did that trust bring? 50,000 innocents burned alive on New Terra. Her words struck like thunder. We gave the Council their chance. They answered with sanctions, told us to wait while more children died, so we acted. Empire's gone. It's clopped. Some clapped, some shouted in anger, some sat frozen. Carter raised her hand, and silence fell. Today, she said, we declare the creation of the Terran Protection Zone. Any species threatened by genocide may request our protection, but in return, they accept our presence, our fleets, our authority in matters of war. One delegate rose nervously. Madame President, some say we have become the very monsters we fought against. Carter looked straight at him. Her eyes burned. We are only monsters to those who prey on the innocent, to those who burn children, to those who think genocide is power. To them, yes, we are monsters. And we will be the monsters that monsters fear. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, reactions spread like fire. On peaceful worlds, crowds begged for Terran fleets to arrive. Small species, long bullied, raised banners with the human emblem, crying for protection. But on other worlds, panic grew. Powerful empires who had once looked down on humanity now wondered if they would be next. Leaders whispered in council halls. If Earth could erase the Zehrin in 3 months, what could they do to us? Inside the Galactic Council chamber, chaos reigned. Ambassadors shouted, tails lashing, wings beating. Some demanded humanity be branded criminals. Others begged for treaties of alliance. Ambassador Creve of the Altarians tried to restore order. His voice trembled. Colleagues, we must act. Humanity has abandoned every convention. If we allow them to continue unchecked, they will dominate us all. A reptilian envoy hissed in reply. And where were your conventions when the Zehrin butchered New Terra? The humans did what you would not. The chamber broke into shouting again. The council, once the symbol of peace, was now a house divided. On the bridge of the UES reckoning, Admiral Jake Morrison listened to alien transmissions. His officers stood silent. The galaxy was debating humanity's soul. Lisa Harper looked at him carefully. Sir, they fear us. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Good. Fear keeps monsters awake at night. Garcia, the tactical officer, hesitated. But what about the innocents? Not every species is like the Zehrin. Some see us now as executioners. Morrison turned slowly. His voice was low but firm. We are not executioners. We are guardians. Any species that kills children, any empire that thinks genocide is strength, will face us. The others have nothing to fear. Lisa's gaze softened for a moment. And if the council tries to stop us, Morrison's answer was sharp as steel, and they'll learn the same lesson. Colonel Murphy stood with her Marines in the ruins of the Zehrin capital. Round them, construction crews were already at work, not rebuilding Zehrin glory, but raising new monuments. She watched as human soldiers set a black stone slab into the ground. On its surface were carved names, not just the 50,000 of New Terra, but the 43 entire species, exterminated by the Zehrin before them. Murphy placed her hand on the stone. Never again, she whispered. Not for us. Not for anyone. Her voice carried to her. Marines. They saluted, rifles raised to the burning sky. Back on Earth. President Carter spoke again, this time not to humans, but to the galaxy. The transmission reached every world. Some of you call us monsters, she said. Perhaps we are. But remember this. We are monsters only to those who hunt the innocent. If you value peace, If you wish for your children to grow safely, we are not your enemy. We are your shield." She leaned closer, her voice a whisper that still carried like thunder. "But if you dare to burn families alive, if you dare to cleanse worlds, then pray. Because we are coming, and you cannot stop us." On dozens of alien worlds, families gathered around screens. They saw President Carter's face, heard her words, and shivered. Some cried in relief, gazoos in terror. But none could ignore her. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy's balance had shifted. The council was weak. Old empires trembled. Humanity, once seen as a fragile newcomer, now set the law. On the reckoning, Morrison gave the final order. "Signal the fleet," he said. "From this day forward, we do not wait for monsters to come to us. We hunt them." The black warships lit their engines. Across the stars, they spread like shadows with fire in their wake. The Zehrin were gone. But the message was clear. Humanity was no longer just another species. They were the law. They were the reckoning. They were the monsters the galaxy would never forget. The ruins of Zehrin Prime smoldered in silence. Ash clouds hung over broken cities. The empire that had once ruled 17 systems was now nothing more than smoke and memories. But this was not the end. It was the beginning. In the heart of the destroyed capital, workers raised a monument of black stone. Its surface glowed faintly, with engraved names. Not just the 50,000 of New Terra, but the 43 entire species erased by Zehrin genocide. Colonel Beth Murphy stood before the stone. Her Marines lined behind her. She saluted, her rifle across her chest. Her voice was firm, but her eyes glistened. "This is not just for us," she said. "This is for every voice that was silenced while the galaxy looked away. Today, humanity speaks for them all." Words echoed across the feeds. Aliens on distant worlds watched. Some bowed their heads. Some trembled. All understood. Earth had claimed a new role in the stars, aboard the UES Reckoning. Admiral Jake Morrison looked out at the burning planet below. His face was hard, carved by grief and fire. Lisa Harper stood at his side, her reflection pale in the glass. "Sir," she whispered, "it's over. The Zehrin are finished." Morrison shook his head slowly. "No, this was only one empire. There are others who think genocide is strength. Others who believe children's screams are victories." He turned, his voice sharp as steel. "From now on, we don't wait for monsters to find us. We hunt them." His officers stood straighter. No one spoke. But their eyes burned with the same fire. In Washington, President Helen Carter addressed the galaxy one last time. The broadcast carried to every council chamber, every colony, every ship that had ears to hear. For centuries, the galaxy told itself it was civilized, she said. But under your laws, 43 civilizations were wiped out. Under your protection, 50,000 of our own were burned alive. Her voice was calm, but her words struck like thunder. No more. Humanity will no longer trust your promises. It will no longer obey your treaties. From this day forward, Earth sets the rules. One law above all, no genocide. Not of us, not of anyone. She leaned closer, her eyes burning into the camera. You value peace. If you cherish your children, you have nothing to fear. But if you believe in fire and slaughter, if you dream of cleansing the galaxy, pray, because we are coming. Across the stars, reactions erupted. On weak, bullied worlds, crowds filled the streets cheering. They waved human banners, chanting for Terran fleets to protect them. For the first time, they felt hope. On powerful empires, rulers whispered in fear. Some ordered fleets to mobilize. Others begged for human treaties. All of them remembered the screams of Zehrin generals dying live on broadcast. The Galactic Council was broken. Half its members demanded Earth be stopped. The other half pleaded to join the Terran Protection Zone. Ambassador Shri sat alone in his chamber, his blue skin pale, his eyes filled with fear, whispered to himself. We should have acted sooner. Weeks passed. Black-holed Terran fleets spread across the galaxy like shadows. They established outposts, patrols, and early warning stations. Wherever whispers of genocide appeared, human ships arrived like predators, engines glowing red in the dark. On the world of Thalros, a warlord had begun cleansing rival tribes. Before he finished, Terran dreadnoughts filled the sky. His forces surrendered without a shot. His people watched in terror as he was dragged away, injected with the slow bioweapon. His screams broadcast system-wide. On the colony of Drain, an empire prepared to burn forests filled with refugees. Human marines landed first, rifles ready. The Empire's generals were executed on live feeds. The refugees wept, not in fear, but in relief. Everywhere the message spread. Genocide has consequences. Inside the Reckoning's war room, Morrison reviewed reports. Worlds begging for protection. Others plotting in secret. Lisa Harper entered quietly. She studied his face. "Sir, do you ever wonder what we've become?" Morrison looked at her for a long moment. Then he gestured to the reports of burning worlds, of children's names carved into monuments. "We became what the galaxy needed," he said. "Not explorers, not diplomats. Monsters. The kind of monsters that monsters fear." Lisa's eyes softened. She whispered, "Then maybe that's who we were always meant to be." That night, Morrison stood alone at the viewport. The stars stretched endless, cold and silent. But he did not see stars. He saw faces. Ben Carter's final message, Lisa's sister in the burn school, the children of New Terra screaming in the flames. He closed his eyes. His whisper was a vow, carried only by the void. Never again. Not for us. Not for anyone. Behind him, the engines of the Terran fleet roared to life. The black ships turned, vanishing into faster-than-light travel. Across the galaxy, aliens looked up at their skies, afraid of shadows, afraid of what might arrive next. For centuries, humanity had been the newcomers, the explorers, the dreamers. Now, they were something else. They were the reckoning. They were the law. They were the monsters in the stars.